was that just generic hardware?
The drivers that are installed on the guest uses an Intel 10 gig adapter.
Is it specifically for hypervisor?
It is a yes. It is a synthetic driver.
Okay.
It is a NIC that's manufactured by Microsoft.
Okay.
You guys know how many NICs Microsoft manufactures, right?
0.
1. Right? The one that's in hypervisor. Right? They do switches too. So there are other networking components, but they're all in hypervisor, right? Does anybody know of hardware or other NICs that Microsoft manufactures?
MS loopback adapter.
Ah, good point.
Another
Yeah, so
feature.
loopback adapter is a network adapter. Absolutely. So I was wrong about that. Others? Others? Yeah. You got me on that
Do
one.
you support Linux?
Yes. We'll get to that in just a minute. In my next scenario, I think I talk about Linux. So let's move on to that example. Actually, it doesn't, but I'll talk about it on this one. Server has 4 physical network adapters. NIC 1 is assigned to the parent partition for management. NIC 2 is assigned to the parent partition for iSCSI, and NICs 3 and 4 are assigned to virtual switches for virtual machine networking. So what does that look like? You have 2 that are unchecked. So the one for iSCSI is unchecked because, remember, iSCSI is being managed by the parent, right? So you're going to reserve that for the parent, for the iSCSI parent. And basically you have one of these is for your back-end communication for the parent. The other one is your iSCSI, okay? And then the other 2 are just shared between these other 3 machines. Now, do I have one? Yeah, I don't. So let's use this scenario. If one of these were a Linux box or a Unix box or whatever, if they were something that's not Microsoft, then instead of going through the VM bus here, what I would be doing is I would be going through an Enlightenment. Okay, I would be using a generic driver, if you will, an Intel gigabit adapter. An Intel gigabit adapter, and that would not be going through the VM bus. That would be going through. It still would be going through the virtual service provider, but it would not be going through the VM bus, which means there's some overhead to that. There's some contact switching with that. The VM bus is kind of like a. I'm oversimplifying this just for the sake of, kind of making a point. The VM bus is kind of like a direct channel to the network card through the parent, whereas the non-synthetic or the Enlightened drivers have to go through a mapping process, if you will.
But they don't. But there are some synthetic drivers for Linux, right?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh.
To my knowledge, the
I thought you had something for Novell or something.
Oh, there might be. I'm not aware of them. So you got me if they are. Okay. But that's really the only difference is you wouldn't be going through the VM bus. You'd be going through the Enlightened drivers, which are like the generic Intel gigabit adapter. Okay. Legacy versus next topic. Legacy versus synthetic NIC. Legacy network adapter up to 4 per virtual machine. Okay. For pros, they're needed for PXE, RIS, or WDS installation. So if you're going to be using remote desktop service, desktop deployment services, then you're going to want to you need the legacy adapter. If you're not doing remote installation services, then you don't really need them because the legacy is a little slower. Okay, that's actually a lot slower. Because it's got to do that. It's got to do that switching. There's a lot of extra overhead to the parent to manage that. The synthetic network adapter allows up to 8 per virtual machine, and it's blazing fast. It's like a direct tunnel to the hardware. Not exactly, but you could look at it that way because it's fast. Both do support VLANs and dynamic or static MAC addresses. So you can create your own. Or by setting them statically, or you can do dynamic. Virtual machine queues. Hyper-V uses virtual machine queue support and new NICs to offload processing to hardware. This is kind of cool because that process doesn't take up your CPU cycles. It takes up it takes advantage of the underlying hardware that you have. We're running low on time, so I'm going to kind of skip over some of this. There is lots of VMQ partner support. a dual port VMQ, Intel card runs about $170. So adding that hardware level Q support, not that unbearable in terms of cost. Oh, good. So
So is it like an iSCSI card type of thing, where it specializes?
no, it just has some additional features built into the card that allows for the network connectivity. I'm not exactly sure
It's just for performance purposes.
It's for performance, exactly. Yeah. Other questions?
Question in terms of network card assignment is, you had that screen where you're checking off network adapters.
Yes.
Does that make the network adapter visible to the guest, and then the guest can start assigning and trying to attach to those physical network adapters?
No.
Or so
No,
the
in
parent
fact, I actually
has
wanted
to grant access?
No, in fact, I actually wanted to get to a demo to show you exactly what that means. We're kind of out of time. So, do you guys want me to take another 5 minutes to go through a quick demo on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Anybody not want to do that?
Maybe.
You might really like the next presentation. I don't know. But you know what? If we don't get them on the phone, we'll dig deeper into this if you guys want. We'll do more Q&A, and we can even do some of the live migration. I can't show you that because I don't have that set up on my machine, but we can talk about some other stuff. So there is a chance that we won't be able to get them on online since it is a remote presentation. Okay, so let's take a look at the hypervisor. The key thing that I wanted to show you is whenever I go in, I'm in the hypervisor now, which you can just run from a Hyper-V Manager, which is under Administrative Tools, Hyper-V Manager, or you can also get to it from your Server Manager, and then go into the roles and expand that into your hypervisor. So I'm just going to pop in there. And on the right, I have Virtual Network Manager. So let me explain these three different types of networks. You have an external, you have an internal, and you have a private. So the external creates a link from your physical network adapter. Kind of look at it as a hardwired link from your physical network adapter to a virtual network adapter that you're creating on the virtual machine. That'll make more sense in a minute after I explain the other two, but I'm going to show you what I mean. The internal creates a virtual network that can be used only by virtual machines that run this physical computer, and between the virtual machines and the physical computer. So that means the host and the guest on this machine can share an internal network interface. Okay? A private creates a virtual network that can be used only by the virtual machines that run on this physical computer. So this does not have access to the host. It's private. This does have access to the host, private plus host, if you will.
By host, you mean parent?
Parent. Yes.
Thank you.
That's exactly, sorry. Yes, I'm using host and parent synonymously.
And doesn't need a network adapter.
It does need a network adapter. I'm going to get to that in just a second. So to add a network adapter, you have to do two things. One, you have to add a network adapter that you're going to use and decide what kind of network adapter is going to be. Is it going to be external? In other words, are you going to give it access to other machines on the external network, on the physical network? If you want to do that, you want to create an external network. If you want to create a network that's shared by virtual machines only, you want to have a sandbox, if you will, that's only available to those machines. Actually, a sandbox is more of an example of what you'd want to use on the more of a private. But say you want to have a sandbox that's only available to those machines, like my demo environment. That's what I use an internal network for that, and I have access to my host and access to my internal machines only, but I don't have access to the outside world. Now, like on a demo machine, I'll have two networks set up on it, or I'll change from one network to the other. It's literally as simple as, I'll show you in a minute. So let's go ahead and create, before I do that, I want to go show you what my networks look like on this machine, and hopefully I don't screw up my other demos when I do this. So I'm going to go to Properties on my network, and I'm going to go to Change Adapter Settings and show you my networks. Okay. I don't have any networks here called VirtG or anything like that. These are just my standard networks, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create, I'm going to add a new network, and I'm just going to call this network VirtG. Now, I can set this to external, I can link it to an individual physical card.